You are making announcements this morning, more detail being fleshed out by your boss, the Housing Secretary, Robert Jenrick, later, about some extra cash help for local councils. I've just been speaking to one, a leader of Bradford Council, and they're obviously facing the prospect, maybe, of following Leicester into lockdown in coming weeks. But every single council around the country has faced huge cash losses and extra costs during the pandemic. What are you offering them today?
Well, we're incredibly grateful to councils up and down the country for everything they've done, including Susan and the City of Bradford. The package today it comes in multiple aspects. So we've got a expenditure package which is worth 500 million for the exceptional pressures that the councils have faced. We've also got an income guarantee which covers off sales fees and charges. So obviously issues like car parking and museums, where councils haven't been able to derive often very significant quantities of revenue. After a 5% deductible, we will split those losses 75-25 between central and local government. And we will also, at the spending review, address their irrecoverable tax losses, issues like council tax, business rates, so that we can give them certainty there. So this is quite a complex package. It's capable of flexing, if you like, to meet the level of losses as they crystallise, and it comes on top of the 3.2 billion that we've already given councils to steer them through the first phase of the pandemic.
And indeed, a lot of that first 3.2 billion was meant to be going towards helping care homes and also social care for the elderly people in the community to keep them safe, PPE, paying for extra visits and the like. When obviously family members couldn't go to help them, but a lot of care home owners, businesses were saying they simply didn't see any of that money.
Well, we have given a further 600 million, a separate grant for care home cleaning regimes, and there's been obviously wider settlements to the NHS. I think the NHS has had, the Department of Health rather, has had something of the order of £14 billion extra, part of which was precisely to cover off PPE purchasing. So there has been a wider package here. You're right that this has been an extraordinarily difficult time for lots of providers. Today's package is about making sure that there's, as I say, further grant and further income support as we continue to develop our offer, as we see the situation for councils continuing to crystallise.
Okay, well, let's talk about where that's for councils dealing with the fallout from the pandemic. Of course, Leicester in particular is dealing with a very dire fallout right now. They're not going to be opening up more on Saturday. They're actually closing back down to where we all were a few weeks ago, going back into lockdown. Bradford, Barnsley, Rochdale, also areas of concern. And yet the latest figures from Public Health England say that actually we have seen a 40% drop in the past week in the rate of COVID, and while Leicester was 20% higher than England as a whole, still well below pandemic levels of infection, and their rate of infection was already falling. Why was it necessary to insist that Leicester went into lockdown?
Well, we looked at the data in Leicester, and unlike the other settlements in the East Midlands, where you see the curve either flattening or even starting to decline, which is great, in Leicester, there was still a pronounced uptick going on when we made this intervention on Monday. It is really important to say that it is not our intention to have many of these town or citywide lockdowns. Our entire plan is predicated upon intervening at either school or workplace or care home level, wherever we possibly can. So we really don't expect the list of all the places you just referenced to go into local lockdown. It's important people there understand that if they follow the guidance and maintain good social distancing, wash their hands, wear face masks on public transport, then they seriously mitigate the risk of their having to do so. Leicester is unfortunately an outlier. We're working very hard with them to support them.
Okay, can we also talk about the incredible spate of mass redundancies we've seen in the last couple of days? 10,000 jobs lost in 2 days. You're Minister not just for local government, but also for regional growth. We are going to see, it's not going to be a regional, local issue in terms of the redundancies we're going to see across the board in retail, leisure, travel and hospitality. But John Lewis, Harrods, Arcadia Group, TM Lewin, Upper Crust, Airbus, EasyJet, all with big names we all know very well, deciding those mass redundancies. We're going to see very many more to come. We've heard lots about how, from the Prime Minister this week in terms of how we're going to have a rebuild and construction and the like, and this is going to rebuild the economy and how this is an opportunity. And a lot of people, be very buoyed up by that. But the reality is a lot of the jobs that are being lost are about people who, particularly in retail and leisure industry, where they don't necessarily have the skills to go into those areas of infrastructure growth and the Prime Minister has been talking about. What are your plans to get those people back into work?
Well, Julia, you're absolutely right. I mean, the employment situation is incredibly serious. That's one of the reasons why we do indeed need to get ourselves out of national lockdown in a safe and a phased manner. The broad backdrop is that clearly the furlough scheme has been a great success. There's over 9 million people have been protected in direct employment. Another 2.5 million of the self-employed have benefited from grant awards as well. And that will remain in place until October, such that we can allow industry to emerge at the pace that it can without shedding any more jobs that is necessary. The PM's speech on Tuesday was about putting demand back into the economy in sectors where the government can do that. Clearly, the Chancellor's statement on the 8th of this month will be setting out more detail in terms of our wider response, because we recognise that a lot of people are going to find themselves unemployed through no fault of their own. What I would finally say is obviously Universal Credit's been doing a great job in terms of adjusting to this massive upsurge in demand and making sure people do indeed get support. And what's an awful time for so many families.
Yeah, but of course we do know, the furlough scheme, it ends in October, as you mentioned, and as of August, it's going to start tapering off. Many employers are saying as soon as they have to start making a contribution towards the furlough scheme payments, they're going to have to start making mass redundancies because they're already making massive losses. There is no real expectation that the travel, retail, leisure industry is going to be bouncing back come October, certainly not by August. I've been shopping in Oxford Street in London this week. Yeah, a couple of times I had to queue for a till, but we are talking about 5% of the sort of number of people that I would normally expect in that street at that time. What is the government considering, at least reviewing whether or not the furlough scheme should be extended at all?
Well, I can't preempt what the Chancellor will say next week. What I do know is obviously that Rishi is an incredibly competent Chancellor. I think he's already shown in the most appalling set of circumstances how flexible and imaginative he's prepared to be. The government will stand behind everyone at this point. We are doing our utmost, ploughing tens of billions of pounds of public money into the economy to protect jobs and to help families, and we'll keep doing that for as long as it takes to get us out of this situation. We absolutely are determined that the economic impact of this crisis should be addressed, and that the thunderclap following the lightning flash, as the Prime Minister said on Tuesday, doesn't hurt more people than it needs to. We are resolute on that.
Okay, just finally, Simon Clarke, representative of the government on the media round today. Prince Harry has issued a video message from his multi-million-pound LA home, accusing the society here in Britain of suffering from endemic institutional racism. Does Britain suffer from endemic institutional racism?
No, we don't. That's absolutely clear in my mind. We're not a racist society. There's always more that we can learn and do better. And, look, I'm not going to say that our society, like any society on this earth, is perfect. But I'm absolutely confident that we are one of the most caring, compassionate and generous societies that you could possibly find. And I'm very proud to be a member of Her Majesty's government delivering on promises like, for example, our commitment to the people of Hong Kong just this week. So we're determined that every community should be supported during this crisis. And of course, equality of opportunity and equality before the law remain the founding principles of our society, and long may that continue.
Do you have a message back for Prince Harry?
No, obviously I don't, and he's entitled to his views, and it's important he should feel free to express them. But as I say, I'm confident that our society is a good place to live, to work, to raise a family, and long may that continue.
Okay, Simon Clarke, Minister for Regional Growth and Local Government, thank you very much indeed for joining us.